Picture this. It's Saturday morning. Imagine a guy named Dave. He's 45 years old, standing in his kitchen in sweatpants, holding a cup of coffee that's gone completely cold. He hasn't even taken a sip because he's just been staring at his phone screen for the last 11 minutes. The dishwasher's humming in the background, his daughter's watching cartoons in the next room, and Dave is staring at a terrifying financial headline. It's a headline that makes him feel like he's fundamentally failed at the game of life. Welcome to this explainer. Today we are unpacking the brutal mathematical reality of middle-aged wealth in America. So let's dive right in.
Well, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news, the number is a lie, a complete statistical, mathematically laundered lie. If you're sitting there at 45, doing all the responsible adult things, working hard, and you are nowhere near $1 million, you might genuinely think everyone else is secretly rich or that something is deeply wrong with you. The truth is, something is wrong, but it's not you. The real culprit here, it's the word average.
When you put the actual data head-to-head, there's a massive glaring gap. Federal Reserve data says the quote-unquote average net worth for a 45 to 54-year-old is $975,800, but the median is just $247,200. That is a staggering $728,600 difference. See, when you calculate an average, you just add everyone's wealth up and divide it. If you put Jeff Bezos and 9 broke guys in a room, the average net worth of that room is, well, about $21 billion. It's technically true, but practically useless. The median, however, is what happens when you line up everyone up from poorest to richest and point to the person standing exactly in the middle. That's your neighbor, that's Dave, and that middle number is actually $247,200.
Before we go any further, we need to set the real scoreboard. If you were to add up everything you own right now, subtract everything you owe, and write that number down on a piece of paper, where do you actually stand? Well, if your number is under $48,000, you're officially in the bottom 25% of Americans your age. If you're around $247,000, you are the median, mathematically exactly in the middle. And if you have about $680,000, you're actually sitting in the top 25%. So $250,000 is the real, honest middle ground. Most people hear that and feel a huge wave of relief. But hold on to that feeling, because that $247,000 median is actually hiding a pretty dark secret.
Let's get into Section 1, the home equity illusion. Basically, your wealth is made of drywall.
For the typical 45-year-old, roughly 60 to 70% of their entire net worth is locked up permanently inside their house. That's it. That is the whole portfolio. If we take Dave's median $247,000 net worth and subtract the roughly $160,000 of home equity he's managed to build up, he's left with only about $87,000. And that $87,000, that has to cover absolutely everything else. Retirement savings, emergency funds, college money, that vacation he promised his wife, everything. It's the entire fragile cushion sitting between Dave and financial disaster. So the absolutely crucial point to understand here is that home equity is not money, not the way people pretend it is anyway. You literally can't eat home equity. Dave can't show up at the grocery store and hand the cashier a piece of his deed to pay for eggs. If he wants to turn his drywall into actual cash to pay bills, he's got 3 really painful options. He can sell the house, but then he has to go buy another wildly expensive house just to have a place to live. He could refinance, pay massive closing costs, and extend his mortgage out until he's 78 years old. Or he can take out a home equity line of credit at 9% interest, which literally means a bank is charging him 9% just to borrow his own money.
Now, if you strip that home equity out entirely, the median net worth practically collapses. But it gets genuinely uncomfortable when we zoom in on retirement. Fidelity publishes this gold standard rule of thumb, right? They say by age 50, you should have 6 times your annual salary saved up. For a median household income, that means a target of about $700,000. But the American reality? The median 401k balance for this age group is just $60,763. Dave isn't at 6 times his income. He's at 0.5 times his income. He's roughly 10 times behind where the financial industry casually says he should be.
Moving on to Section 2. We call this the generational squeeze, paying for 3 generations at once.
So how exactly did millions of Gen Xers end up falling so far behind? I mean, it wasn't from buying too many coffees. It was a structural trap. If you look closely at the wealth data between 2019 and 2023, which, remember, was a period that included a massive stock boom and a housing explosion, the 40 to 54 age group was the only bracket in America to actually lose wealth in real terms. They were down 7%. Think about it. If you were 35 back in 2012, you were in the worst possible spot. You just survived the 2008 crash, your wages were barely recovering, and you were probably renting. By the time you finally saved enough to buy a home around 2020, Prices had already tripled. The window to build wealth the easy way slammed shut exactly when it was your turn to walk through it.
And because of that missed window, Gen X took home a trophy absolutely nobody wanted: the highest debt burden in America. They're sitting on an average of $158,150 in total debt. They have the highest credit card balances, growing at 21% interest, meaning the credit card balance is literally growing faster than their 401k. 44% are carrying medical or dental debt, and shockingly, 1 in 10 is currently paying off student or parent plus loans. These are loans middle-aged parents took out to get their kids through college, and they're compounding at over 9% interest. That is a level of financial violence that just eats away at any real chance of catching up.
This perfectly illustrates the crushing reality of the sandwich generation. More than half of Americans in their 40s are simultaneously supporting an aging parent while also raising a child or financially helping out an adult child. Every month, Dave writes a $1,400 check for his mom's assisted living. That's money that used to go straight into his 401k. On top of that, his older son just moved back home, which costs an average of $1,384 in monthly support. Plus, he's still paying for his younger child's everyday life expenses. Dave isn't irresponsible. His 401k is empty because it's structurally impossible to fund 3 generations out of one single paycheck.
Which brings us to Section 3, Myths of Financial Rescue. Or, put more bluntly, no one is coming to save you.
Because the pressure is just so immense, a lot of people are quietly hoping for a rescue. Let me respectfully take that pillow away from you right now. You've likely heard of the Great Wealth Transfer, right? The idea that $84 trillion is about to be magically passed down to save everyone. But here is the brutal mathematical truth: $9,700. For the median American in the bottom half of the wealth distribution, the median expected inheritance is just $9,700. That is not generational wealth. That is a 2014 Toyota Corolla with a check engine light. The vast majority of that $84 trillion is highly concentrated. It's going straight to people who are already millionaires.
Why is that inheritance number so agonizingly low? Well, it's deeply practical. Nursing homes and end-of-life care evaporate inheritances at a staggering rate. The average cost of end-of-life care is roughly $137,000 per person. Remember Dave's mom? Her assisted living facility costs $6,200 a month. That money is being pulled directly out of the equity of the house she originally planned to leave him. Before any inheritance can actually transfer over, a massive chunk gets eaten by the healthcare system. It's not a character flaw, it's just the math.
Now you might be sitting there thinking, okay, well, at least I've got Social Security coming. Consider this number: 23%. The 2025 Social Security Trustees Report projects that the Old Age Trust Fund will be completely depleted in 2035. If Congress doesn't step in and intervene, incoming taxes are only going to cover part of the benefits. That results in an automatic 23% cut across the board. The oldest Gen Xers reach full retirement age in 2032, meaning they're going to hit the finish line just 3 short years before the system hits a brick wall.
All right, let's pivot to Section 4, the 20-year window. It is time to turn on the compounding machine.
So if we tally this all up, it sounds completely hopeless, right? Dave has wealth made of drywall, an empty 401k, heavy debt, and an evaporating inheritance. It sounds like a total disaster. But there is a solution. The internet finance gurus will tell Dave he needs to magically find $2,700 every single month to hit a $1.7 million retirement goal. Honestly, that's a pure fantasy for a median income household. But let's look at the actual mathematical reality. Saving just $800 to $1,000 a month, starting today at age 45, gets you to over $500,000 by age 65. Is that retire to a private beach money? No. But is it the difference between genuine security and Googling the cheapest states for seniors on a fixed income? Absolutely.
Here's Dave's 20-year Monday morning action plan. At age 45, he opens that app he's been avoiding and bumps his 401k contribution to 10%. That's about $390 extra a month. Then he calls HR and sets up an IRA with another $300 a month, just auto-draft it out. That's a total commitment of about $700 a month. By age 55, assuming a modest 7% historical return, that money starts heavy compounding. By age 65, Dave gets to retire with $500,000 to $600,000. Just think about that. One single Monday morning conversation with HR generates hundreds of thousands of dollars in newly created retirement security.
Listen to me, the absolute worst possible thing you can do at age 45 is just throw your hands up and decide that it's simply too late. Yes, the math is tight. The game definitely got harder. The standard benchmarks were written for an economy that honestly just doesn't exist anymore. But it is not hopeless. You still possess a 20-year compounding window. Now sure, it's narrower than it was when you were 25, but that window stays open for 20 more years, whether you choose to use it or not.
The average 45-year-old isn't a failure. Not at all. They're just running a race nobody told them started 15 years ago. But the race is still on. You just have to stop pretending the finish line is going to wait for you. Your 20-year compounding window is wide open right now. The only question is, what are you going to do with it before it closes forever?